Yes guys, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix YouTube video. My name is FPL Nacho, and in this video we are going to be looking at the top transfers going into Game Week 2. It was an eventful Game Week 1, and these players I really think need to be on your radar ahead of the Friday deadline. So make sure you do drop a like on the video, make sure you smash that subscribe button, and without further ado, let's get into today's top transfers. First of all, I wanted to kick things off with Spurs' James Maddison, who put in a fantastic performance against Brentford, picking up 2 assists and 9 FPL points. We all know that Maddison is going to be fantastic FPL value at 7.5 million. It's just when do we bring him into our team? So for those that went for him in Game Week 1, I have to tip my hat to you. That was a great option to go for, and he did deliver in this game. But the big question is he going to continue with these underlying numbers, and is he going to be in our teams for Game Week 2. Now, of course, I can't come to any conclusions based off one game week, but what I've seen from these underlying numbers are really, really promising. Now, for James Maddison, I'm not expecting him to be the goal scorer in this Spurs team, but I want to see him be the creative hub, the creative influence in this team, and he showed exactly that. Expected assists 0.83 and 6 attempted assists, which was the second most of any player in the league in Game Week 1. Really promising signs, and I think what we saw in pre-season did translate into Game Week 1. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have Harry Kane to feed those balls into to score every single pass. But expected FPL points of 7.13, some of the best of all the midfielders in Game Week 1. Now, a few notes from the Game Week 1 performance. First and foremost, he was on pretty much every single corner. When we're considering a midfielder, we need to look at other avenues of points that they can contribute. If they cannot deliver from open play goals or assists, having those set pieces like free kicks, like corners, is just another string to the bow that I always want to look at when we are considering our midfielders. So the fact that Maddison has the majority of them is just a massive bonus when we are looking at him as a team. And it's also worth noting the touches that he did have in the game. Now, it's worth noting the predominantly of his touches were in and around the middle third into the final third, but very few penalty box touches. Just to give you a bit of an example here, Maddison only had 2 penalty box touches compared to Richarlison's 7. That's what we'd expect with Richarlison playing as a number 9. But again, Maddison isn't going to be that player that is going to be taking 7, 8, 9 touches in the opposition box. He's going to be creating those half spaces and trying to open up defences. Exactly what we used to see in that Leicester team. But if we can see the XG creep up over the coming game weeks, we are seeing almost an essential option at 7.5 million. Now, looking at the predicted points for Game Weeks 2 to Game Weeks 5, we can see 18.2, which is really solid numbers for a midfielder. In fact, it's the 5th best of all midfielders over this period. And we can see why with the fixtures that they do have. Man United at home, I actually don't think is a bad fixture. We saw them perform tonight against Wolves. Wolves done very well against them. I think there will be goals in this particular fixture. Bournemouth, Burnley and Sheffield United to follow as well. I think these are fantastic fixtures for Spurs to really start to produce those XG numbers in games. We saw that in Brentford, and I think they can do that in these fixtures as well. So for me, is Maddison an option for Game Week 2? I think I want one more game's worth of information to understand whether Maddison or Richarlison is the route to go for. But what we saw in pre-season from Spurs, what we've seen in Game Week 1, I am expecting Maddison to just be that 90-minute man that is going to be the creative hub in this team. And if he continues that against Man United, I think he's going to be very difficult to ignore for Game Week 3. But if you want to pull the trigger early, I don't blame you at all. So next up, let's take a look at another player that has really caught the eyes of all FPL managers. Now that is going to be Ben Chilwell. We spoke about him in depth during pre-season about how he was going to be an essential defender for our teams at 5.5 million, and Game Week 1 did not disappoint at all. An XG of 0.26. We saw that fantastic opportunity that he did have at the back post, but his first touch just really took it away from him. And it's also worth noting that offside goal that he did score, where he was only a few centimetres offside. Another time he's onside there and he gets the goal and the assist that he already picked up in that game. And realistically, if anybody did see that game, it is very difficult to not consider Ben Chilwell for your FPL teams. Now, at the time of recording, he is currently 5.5 million, but based on our price predictor, we are expecting him to rise in price to 5.6. So when this video releases, he might already have had his price rise to 5.6. So make sure you do monitor that one. But an expected assist of 0.62 as well. These are just unbelievable numbers for somebody who was playing wing back in this system. Now, again, it's another caveat we need to consider. Was the 3-5-2 just very, very specific for Liverpool, or are we going to see them revert to a 4 or a 3 going forward? I think Ben Chilwell is a very unique case. Yes, as a wing back, his numbers are going to be better. That is just understandable. But I do think in pre-season, when we saw Ben Chilwell play as a left back, he still was such an attacking threat down that left side, being the highest man in some cases. And I do think that is going to continue regardless of whether they play a back 4 or a back 3. And it's worth noting, his expected FPL points of 8.62 was the third best of all defenders in game week 1. So if that's a sign of things to come, he is looking like a fantastic FPL option for our teams. Now, he has the 5th best predicted points over the next 4 game weeks at 15.9, which I would argue is actually a little bit low. I think the minutes are the thing that's maybe slightly dropping them down, as Reece James's predicted points are slightly higher than that of Ben Chilwell's. But for those that are considering James or Chilwell, I do think Chilwell is the route to go for. Him being on corners as well is a big factor, and as I discussed with Maddison, just another route to points that we always want to look for when we are bringing in FPL options. So look, looking at the fixtures going forward, I think Game Week 2 is perfectly fine to bring him into your teams if you want to. I've seen already enough in Game Week 1 to consider him one of the best value defenders in the game if he does stay injury free. And West Ham away, while that might be quite a close game, I think what we saw from Chelsea, he is going to be such an exciting option. I think you just bring him in now. Depends who you're selling is the big question. Otherwise, Game Week 3 at home against Luton, that could be any sort of scoreline, followed by Nottingham Forest as well. I think you just pull the trigger, get it done, knowing that he's going to be a long-term hold in your FPL teams. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. For me, very difficult to ignore. So last up, we're going to look at 2 forwards who just absolutely dominated in the big chances. And that is going to be Chelsea's Nicholas Jackson, who was very impressive in his Premier League debut. And of course, Newcastle's Alexander Isak, who is absolutely flown under the radar during pre-season. We know what an absolute talent Isak is, but definitely somebody that we have almost wrote off a little bit, being attracted by the likes of Watkins, Gabriel Jesus pre-injury, Darwin Núñez, for example. But these two were standout forwards in Game Week 1. Looking at the numbers that they put up, Nicholas Jackson, 1.19 XG, and that is without any penalties involved, is unbelievable numbers when we consider they did play against a top team in Liverpool, who I would argue, have some defensive frailties, it is worth noting. Isak, on the other hand, 1.04 XG, outrageous numbers once again, and he only played 67 minutes as well, so that number could have just continued to creep up against that Aston Villa high line, which he absolutely destroyed. Now, in terms of the shots, 4 for Nicholas Jackson, 3 for Isak, but it's the big chances that are the real standout here. 3 apiece for both. Nicholas Jackson having that fantastic cutback opportunity on his right foot, and also that left-footed opportunity where he ran away from Kanate. That was really impressive from Jackson, whereas Isak actually did put away his big chances. That delightful chip on his second and the composed finish in his first, and that is why his expected FPL points is slightly higher with the opportunities that he did amass, 9.15 compared to Nicholas Jackson's 6.76. But what I really do love about this is the expected assists of both being 0. Now, for some people watching this might be thinking, that's not good, I want a well-rounded FPL option. But for me, if a forward is racking up over 1 XG and 0 XA, that screams to me that he is spearheading the attack of any team that he's playing in. And similar to Callum Wilson, these are numbers that we are kind of accustomed to. Whenever we see Callum Wilson, it is high XG, low XA, and that just screams goal scorer. And when we're looking at FPL options, we want the guy that is going to be greedy in their teams, and these two look like they are those players in their respective games. But it's worth noting it's only 1 game week's worth of information. Now, looking forward, based on the predicted points, Nicholas Jackson is clear of Alexander Isak, but for a few reasons. First and foremost, Nicholas Jackson's game time is pretty much locked in. Broja has played 0 minutes of pre-season, and it's also worth noting Nkunku is out until Christmas, so Jackson is locked in for game time, and he is 0.6 million cheaper, as Alexander Isak was the first player to get a price rise this season to 7.6 million. The other reason why his predicted points is a lot less than Nicholas Jackson is rotation risk. We saw it already coming off early for Callum Wilson. It's worth it was a game state situation there, but also the fixtures going forward. Man City, Liverpool, Brighton and Brentford, very tricky fixtures. Now, it is worth noting, even though a fixture ticker do have these as tough games, after seeing Liverpool, I think Newcastle can definitely cause them plenty of problems. And Brighton defensively, I am never completely sold on. So I do think, even though these fixtures are quite difficult on paper, I think Newcastle can definitely score goals over this period. And if you want to go for a differential forward that's clearly unbelievable value at 7.6 million, I think Alexander Isak is a great option. But at 0.6 million cheaper for guaranteed minutes and definitely better fixtures, I think I would favour Nicholas Jackson right now. Looking at the XG that he posted, the guaranteed minutes, we don't even know if he'd be on penalties as well, which would be an added bonus. I think going down that route is just the wise move for your teams. Callum Wilson could step in at any moment and take some game time away for Alexander Isak. But let me know your thoughts on the comments on that one. For me, Jackson just leads the way. So that just seems to say, thank you so much for tuning into this video, guys. I really hope it has provided some value and a bit of clarity on which transfers you should prioritise going into Game Week 2. As always, make sure you do check out Fantasy Football Fix. Links are in the bio. And as always, make sure you do drop a like on the video and smash that subscribe button. And that just leaves us to say, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Cheers.